Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? If y'all don't know me by now, my name is Bryce Owens. But we're going to talk about marijuana again. And, most of us know that marijuana has been criminalized long before we were born, roughly around mid to late 30s. What a lot of people don't know is why there's been such a negative stigma on this drug, since we were even born, growing up through school, being told that marijuana was bad for you. And a lot of it has to do with the racist ties that were, put in place, the ideas and the mindsets and the legislation passed on the prohibition of marijuana. And that's what a lot of people don't know and understand. And to go on top of that, there are many wonders that marijuana provides in terms of medical treatment. Um, One of those things potentially being, for me, I have a little bit of an anecdote, but for example, there has been proven pain management with marijuana used medically. And my father struggled with opiate addiction for some time. For him, after he had an accident, after being prescribed, these opiates, which led to addiction, had some strains on the family. Needless to say, he's clean now and he's well and he's fine today. But had there been an alternative pain management or some way to treat, this accident that he had many years ago, other than the use of addictive opiates, the problem of opiate addiction could have been absolutely avoided altogether had there been something else, i.e., marijuana. But there never was. So, in consensus, marijuana should be legalized on the federal level because of the racist roots in the prohibition of the substance and the medical miracles that marijuana provides. And there are many, many ways that we can get progressive and, get forward and push this movement, push this idea, and get this, decriminalize it and make this a reality and not just this dream that everyone has had since this movement began. Um, Before we even talk about how we, get involved doing so, first we just want to make sure that everyone understands what are these racist roots like? What are you talking about? Or what are these medical wonders that you're talking about before we even discuss how we get involved? So, talking about prohibition and the racist roots, we during the Great Depression there was unemployment was at an all-time high, which ultimately led to the stigma of Mexicans stealing our jobs, and that was because uh, un, unrecognized illegal aliens were cheaper to pay than hardworking Americans. So that led to that negative stigma, and marijuana was often associated with Mexicans at the time. So, along with the distaste of Mexicans, along went with the tide of marijuana. Hence the name marijuana. What the legal name for it, we call it today. In courtrooms and debates, so on. And throughout the 30s, there was a massive following for Stop the Evil Weed, and ultimately led to the passing tax of the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937, ultimately criminalizing possession and use of marijuana. And even prior to that, in 1931, there had already been 29 states that outlaw marijuana on the state level. So why are we still holding on to these laws and legislation that have these racist ideas and ties and mindsets? Why are we trying to do this, especially with racism being a major topic of discussion this past year? Needless to say, I think a common goal for everyone is to let go and remove the racist mindset out of the majority and remove the policies that are unfair to those of color. And seeing as the criminalization of marijuana was, specifically targeted towards Mexicans and black people at the time in the 30s, there's common ground for everyone to get behind why we should decriminalize this drug, especially, just the social aspect of it. And that's why it's important to get it on the federal level, because yes, we do have some legalities and on some state levels, but federally over trumps all. And that's why it's important to understand and be aware of this fact, and kind of get people more involved with that. Another point I want to make, you have your medical benefits, and like I stated earlier with my dad, opiates versus marijuana. So before we get into opiates versus marijuana, just the raw medical benefits. How is it medically beneficial for you? And I'm just going to try and break it down the best I can, the nitty gritty. So, the main ingredients in medical marijuana that make it medically beneficial are called the cannabinoids. And there are two main cannabinoids in marijuana, one of them being delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and cannabidiol, or CBD. And CBD is known for controlling epileptic seizures, treating mental illness as well as addiction. And while THC, on the other hand, is what makes you feel high, what makes you feel good, what makes you get that, that head rush, or however it might affect your body. Drugs affect everyone differently, so on and so on. But generally, THC is known with helping pain control, inflammation, and even reduce nausea. And according to Peter Grinspoon, an MD and professor at Harvard Medical School, the primary use and reason of medical marijuana is pain control. So that presents a question of, what else can we use for pain control? This is one of those things. And some stats to throw out there: there were 67,367 deaths related to opiates in 2018, versus absolutely zero deaths related to direct result of marijuana in 2017. If that doesn't show you anything, or open your eyes to any sort of alternative and how we can save lives, that sort of thing, you're blind. You're blind. But if we can find alternatives for pain relief and shift away from the use of opiates, we can save lives, fight opiate addiction, just legalizing this plant that we can grow in our own backyard. And so now let's get down to, how can I help? How can I get involved, Bryce? What can I do? So due to the politicized nature of this whole discussion, the best thing we can do is, within our democratic rights and freedoms, we need to exercise those freedoms. There isn't a whole lot we can do. I mean, there's some places that you can donate money to, but I mean, just some simple, easy things, go to a local rally in support of marijuana, or, go start your own rally or protest, get a group of people, write a persuasive letter to a congressman that represents your state, congressman on the state level, federal level, whatever. And there are some organizations that I'm not entirely sure of or aware of, but I know that there are some campaigns in different states. I'm not aware of one in Georgia at the moment, but donate money to those guys, see what they're doing, see if you can get involved. We the people have to create change. All in all, the legalization of marijuana is all long overdue. The motives for criminalizing it in the first place were extremely racist and should not be implemented today nor enforced. There are studies showing that marijuana can work medical wonders, and we have Harvard MDs telling us that this is an alternative to pain control, pain management. I'd rather listen to the guy from Harvard than anybody else, any politician in the world, honestly. But we're living in a very progressive era and world today, and I would love for this to be one of those things that we can see be progressive. The progressiveness on the legality of marijuana, the culture of marijuana, the mindset of marijuana, and this is a mindset and a culture, something that we can change and be a part of. And I think everyone should be knowledgeable about it and formulate their own opinion. Hopefully, you're on the, pro weed, but, everyone has their opinions, but yeah.